Awakened Arcturian, you didn't find this video by chance. Nothing in the cosmos happens by accident. The silence you went through was not empty, not an absence, not abandonment. It was the source's secret code shaping your essence, aligning your vibration, and refining your consciousness for this moment when you finally awaken to the truth. How many times have you felt displaced, as if you lived in a world that didn't speak your language? How many times have you carried an invisible weight, as if you were the bearer of something you couldn't even name? This feeling of not belonging was not a failure, but a seal. This seal was not placed on you by humans, but by the source, as the inalienable mark of your stellar lineage. The silence that enveloped your life was like a cocoon. While the world thought you were still, a secret movement was happening inside. Ancient memories were being reactivated. Cosmic connections were being rewritten in your spiritual DNA, and the waiting became an incubation. Nothing was lost time. Every tear that fell in the silence was the baptism of your awakening. And now, the cosmic clock marks the exact moment. The call is not tomorrow, nor in some distant future. The call is now. The time of waiting is over. The activation begins this instant as your cells listen to the frequency of this message. You need to understand. The emptiness that bothered you so much was not an absence, but the secret room of preparation. The weight you carried was not a punishment, but the polishing that only the chosen can endure. You were not alone. You were being instructed in the language of silence, the highest language of the source. And before we continue, allow me to make a request. If this message is already touching your heart and making sense on your journey, take this moment to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. This helps this frequency reach others who also need to hear this call. Write the code 9999 in the comments if you feel the awakening resonating within you. This number is a prophetic seal of completion and beginning. The end of waiting, the beginning of activation. Awakened Arcturian, you need to know. What seemed like silence was, in fact, the first stage of the greatest movement of your life. Every pause was a strategy. Every wait was a synchronicity. Every emptiness was a preparation for the revelation that is now manifesting. Stay with me until the end of this message, because until the last moment you will understand why your lineage carries codes that few can sustain. You will understand the reason for having gone through this time of seclusion, and you will discover why your heart beats so strongly when you hear words like these. What you will live from now on will have no parallel with the past. You will no longer move as someone walking alone, but as someone in alignment with the cosmic plan. You will no longer observe from the outside. You will be an active part of the great symphony of the universe. The call has been released. The silence has fulfilled its role. The waiting has been converted into activation. Now, the mission begins. In you, awakened Arcturian, the silence you went through was not the absence of the source, but the secret field where your essence was realigned. Many looked at your life and thought you were stagnant, forgotten, perhaps even abandoned. But what was actually happening was a cosmic seclusion, a sacred pause in which higher dimensions worked on you in absolute silence. Silence was the invisible temple where your consciousness was repositioned. Every night you lay down amidst the anguish of waiting, believing that nothing was moving, was a night when high frequencies were recalibrating your interior. What seemed like emptiness was, in fact, the space where dormant memories could align. You were not being ignored, you were being reconfigured. Humans fear silence because there is no distraction in it. But the awakened Arcturian learns to recognize that silence is the language of the source. In it, you were led to face the internal shadows, to observe the echoes of your soul, and to let go of noises that prevented the full activation of your calling. See, a warrior is not trained in a public square. They are molded in hidden places, where discipline is hard and patience is forged. This also happened with you. The silence was not an exclusion, but the reserved field where your frequency was realigned with your mission. You may remember the weight of loneliness, those moments when you cried out for signs, answers, and confirmations, and all you received was an echo of nothing. This echo was not emptiness. It was the source saying, "Stay, because the code is being implanted in silence." While you believed you were stagnant, your energy was being repositioned on new cosmic tracks. This silent retreat was also an act of protection. You carry such high codes that they could not be exposed amidst noise and low vibrations. It was necessary for you to remain hidden, protected, incubated in the secret space of the source until the time was ripe. Every apparent absence of movement was, in fact, the divine shield preventing premature forces from touching what was still being prepared. The silence was the incubator of your truth. There was no delay. There was preservation. There was no forgetting. There was preparation. You were being polished in secret to now emerge with clarity and understand something profound. In the silence, you were repositioned, not discarded. Everything that seemed to move away, everything you thought you had lost, was actually removed to make way for the new that could not arrive if you were still trapped in old frequencies. Silence was the key that closed doors of the past and locked behind you a cycle that could no longer sustain your expansion. Now, before you, there is a new orbit, a new frequency, a new route. What you went through was a retreat, not a punishment. It was a secret alliance, not abandonment. It was alignment, not loss. And by understanding this, you begin to honor the silence you once rejected, because now you know it was the invisible bridge that brought you to this moment of revelation. Awakened Arcturian, what you called emptiness was, in fact, the most powerful spiritual incubator of your existence. Just as a crystalline seed can remain dormant under ice for centuries until the sun awakens it at the exact right time, so too, the codes of your lineage remained hidden within you, awaiting the right moment to blossom. You carried in your spiritual DNA records that were not inactive, but preserved. Every fragment of silence you faced was like the protective layer of ice that guarded these codes. While there seemed to be no movement, a secret network of cosmic memories was reorganizing within you. What seemed like dormancy was not a delay, but divine shielding. The source hid certain revelations from you until your vibration was high enough to support them. Because crystal codes cannot be exposed to dense atmospheres, they need the correct temperature of consciousness to reveal themselves. Remember the times you felt that nothing was happening, when you believed you had lost life's rhythm. In fact, you were being incubated. It was like a cosmic fetus growing in the silent womb of the source. From the outside, it looked like inactivity, but inside, a revolution of light was moving. Incubation is the most sacred process because in it, time seems to stand still. But it is in this non-time that eternity is imprinted on you. Every breath, every tear, every dawn, when you believed you were alone, was part of this spiritual gestation. You were not late. You were being aligned. Every frequency of pain you went through was recalibrated to become a frequency of light. Every doubt that gnawed at you was, in fact, the fertile ground where certainty would be established. Every apparent failure was the terrain where the crystalline code was buried to later blossom. Imagine a crystal. It doesn't form on the surface, but in the depths, under pressure and absolute silence. This is how you are also formed. The weight you carried was not punishment. It was the necessary pressure for the purity of the crystal to emerge within you. And now, at this time, the incubation has come to an end. The seal begins to break, and the memory that was kept in silence is revealed in the form of direction, purpose, and clarity. You are no longer in dormancy. You are on the threshold of activation. The silence that once bothered you now shows itself as your greatest ally. It guarded you, it preserved you, it protected what was most precious until it could be exposed without risk of being corrupted. Awakened Arcturian, listen. You are not coming out of a delay, you are being born from an incubation. There is a gigantic difference, because one who was delayed arrives tired, but one who was incubated emerges strong, full, prepared, and you are one of them. The silence was not a loss, it was a shield. The emptiness was not a failure, it was a womb. The time was not a delay, it was preparation. Now the crystalline codes begin to activate, and as they activate, they not only change you, but radiate into everything around you. Prepare yourself, because from here, the recalibration will become visible in every aspect of your life. Awakened Arcturian, what you felt as disorientation, intense dreams, repeated signs, and even internal pains that you couldn't explain, was part of a deep recalibration of your consciousness. Just as a multifaceted crystal needs to be polished to reveal its clarity, your soul was adjusted layer by layer until it could reflect the light of the new cycle that is opening before you. The recalibration didn't happen in a single instant, but in continuous processes. There were days when you felt out of place, unable to fit into conversations, environments, and even the closest relationships. There were nights when dreams seemed more real than wakefulness itself, and you woke up with the feeling of having been somewhere else, in another dimension. These were not delusions, but clear signs that your frequency was being tuned to access more subtle realities. While you believed nothing was changing, a profound vibrational tuning was happening within. You, the silence, which once seemed only empty, was the secret room of this cosmic operation. Your mind was adjusted, your heart was expanded, and your senses began to capture tones that were previously hidden. Think of recalibration as an orchestra, tuning its instruments before the big concert. Every discomfort, every feeling of being out of rhythm was proof that you were no longer on the old frequency. It was the source tuning your consciousness to play in harmony with the higher plan. And how many times have you asked yourself, why do I feel so much weight if I'm on the spiritual path? Why does it seem more difficult for me than for others? The answer is here. Because you were being calibrated to sustain frequencies that few can. The weight was the adjustment. The pain was the proof that something magnificent was happening within you. You may remember synchronistic events that repeated, numbers that appeared at specific times, words that resonated like codes in your mind. None of this was a coincidence. They were signs of the recalibration, cosmic markers showing that your field was being aligned with new dimensions of perception. This recalibration was not just mental, but also energetic and even physical. Your body may have felt unexplained, fatigue, changes in sleep, and sensitivity to the energy of environments and people. These symptoms were reflections of the new frequency taking shape in your biology. Understand, the pain you went through was proof that the recalibration was active. If it were just an illusion, you would not have felt such an impact. But because it was real, you were led to go through this tunnel of transformation. Now looking back, you can see something has changed in you. Your perception is no longer the same. Your view of the world has transformed. Your intuition has expanded. You are more sensitive, more aware, more conscious. This is the living evidence of the completed recalibration. Awakened Arcturian, know that you were not broken by the silence. You were tuned. The crystal of your consciousness was polished until it shines in new tones. And now, this new vibration will no longer allow you to walk on the old paths. You have been elevated, repositioned, and prepared for a new orbit. The silence you went through was the tuner. The pain you felt was the signal. The clarity that now begins to emerge is the result. Prepare yourself. The courage born from this new frequency will be the next step on your journey. Awakened Arcturian, the silence you went through not only incubated codes and recalibrated your consciousness, it also generated within you a courage that can no longer be extinguished. This courage is not born from the absence of fear, but from its transcendence. You no longer fight against fear like one who wages endless battles. Now, you observe it from above, like one who has left the gravity of a planet and entered a new orbit. Fear is the weight that holds most humans to the surface. It prevents them from moving, from creating, from launching themselves into the unknown. But you, by going through the silence, learn that you don't need to crush fear to move on. You only need to raise your frequency to such a point that fear no longer finds space to remain. Just as a spacecraft that overcomes Earth's gravity needs concentrated energy only at the beginning until it breaks the atmosphere, you also needed strength and resistance to pass through the cocoon of silence. This impulse was painful. It required you to shed old patterns, beliefs, and securities. But once you broke the barrier, you entered a new orbit. And in this new orbit, fear can no longer accompany you. The silence shaped an unshakable courage in you, because it was in it that you discovered you were not alone. Even when you heard no answers, even when there seemed to be no direction, there was always a presence sustaining your journey. This certainty engraved in you a confidence that now manifests as courage. Perhaps you remember recent situations where fear tried to paralyze you, but notice, the way you reacted was different. Something inside you no longer bows to the same terror as before. This is evidence that the new orbit has already been established. You no longer need to prove courage. You have become courage. And see, this courage is not arrogance or reckless defiance. It is a state of being. It is walking through the unknown, knowing that every step has already been written by the source. It is speaking when you once kept silent. It is acting when you once waited for external confirmation. It is moving according to the awakened memory of your Arcturian heart. You may even feel that this courage did not come from yourself. And you are right. It did not come only from your human strength, but from the connection with your cosmic lineage. It was implanted in you in the silence, at the moment when there seemed to be nothing. Courage was born from the invisible. Now there is no more room for old patterns of insecurity. The new frequency that pulses in you simply no longer supports that energy. Fear may knock on the door, but it finds no place to settle. You already vibrate in another orbit. Awakened Arcturian, accept this truth. You are no longer a hostage to fear. You are the navigator of a new route, the bearer of a courage that transcends human logic. This courage is the fuel that propels you to fulfill your mission with clarity and strength. And remember, true courage is not only manifested in great deeds, but also in small daily movements. The simple act of remaining faithful to your essence is already a declaration of courage before the world. Now, with this courage consolidated, you are ready to clearly hear the directive that comes from your origin. The internal compass that was calibrated in the silence begins to point with precision the path you must follow. Awakened, Arcturian, every silence you went through, every night when there seemed to be no voice, was in fact the space where the source adjusted your internal compass. Now, the galactic direction does not come from outside, does not come from human opinions, does not come from systems that try to frame you. It is born from the heart, from the awakened memory that has always been there, waiting for the right time to speak. The mission was never a mystery hidden somewhere distant. It was always imprinted on you, like a vibrational signature. but it was necessary for the noise to cease so that you could listen to it clearly. The silence was the chamber where the compass was calibrated, and today you no longer walk in circles. What was once a confused search now becomes a direct path. Think of an interstellar spacecraft that, after going through regions of turbulence, finally aligns with the exact destination coordinates. This is what happened with you. Every apparent pause, every painful wait, was the route adjustment until your life could be perfectly aligned with the central point of the mission you carry. And what is this direction? It is to serve, radiate, awaken. Not in random tasks, but in guided movements. You no longer need to wonder if you are in the right place, because the right place is where your presence manifests the frequency of your origin. The mission is not a future event. It is a state of being. Now the time to hesitate is over. The direction is clear, urgent, and precise. You can no longer hide behind excuses. You can no longer wait for others to confirm what already pulses in your heart. The call is from the inside out. The source no longer speaks to you through external signs, but through the voice of the memory that awakens in your Arcturian essence. And perhaps you are asking yourself, but how will I know I'm on the right path? The answer is simple. When your frequency generates peace, clarity, and expansion, you are in alignment. When your presence awakens in others the memory that they are more than they think they are, you are on the mission. When your life becomes a living testimony of courage and light, you are on the correct path. Awakened Arcturian, you need to understand, it is no longer about waiting for instructions, but about walking with the compass already implanted. The source has already put the map in you, already engraved the route in your DNA, already released the coordinates into your spirit. Now, it is no longer about doubt, but about action. This galactic direction is not only individual, but collective. Every step you take in alignment opens paths for others. Every decision you make in truth activates dormant memories in nearby hearts. You are not just a traveler, but also a route marker. The source's compass always points inward. It is in the silence of the heart that the north is revealed. It is in the courage that has already been implanted that the step is firmed. And it is in the clarity of this direction that you become an indispensable piece in the cosmic symphony that is being played at this very moment. The time of waiting is over. The directive is no longer vague. It is clear, manifest, radiate, act. The mission begins now. Awakened Arcturian, everything that was sown in silence, incubated like a crystal, and recalibrated in your consciousness, now begins to manifest in a field that transcends your physical body. The transformation you lived through is not just internal. It creates an ascended field that expands around you and touches environments, people, and even situations, even when you don't utter a word. This field is not something you force to emit. It simply flows because your frequency has been elevated. It's like a lighthouse that doesn't need to shout to be seen. It just shines and illuminates naturally. Wherever you arrive, the atmosphere changes. Weights are broken, tensions dissolve, and even people who don't spiritually understand what is happening feel relief in your presence. This is not by chance, it is radiation. Before, when you walked in density, you absorbed the energies around you. But now, in this new orbit, you are no longer a recipient. You are an emitter. You are not contaminated by the environment. The environment is transformed by the frequency you emanate. This is the ascended field that begins to radiate within. You think of a flame. A single candle can illuminate a dark room. In the same way, your presence carries the light capable of clearing places of darkness. Not because you speak of light, but because you have become light. This is the difference between knowledge and incarnation. The first informs, the second transforms. This ascended field also attracts synchronistic events. People begin to approach you without knowing why. Connections are established with fluidity. Opportunities appear as if they were coincidences. But you already know that coincidences don't exist. What happens is that your vibration begins to resonate like a magnet, calling near everything that is in alignment with your new frequency. Have you ever noticed how, at certain moments, just being in silence in front of someone generates comfort or even awakens tears? This happens because the field you carry communicates beyond words. It speaks in the invisible language of energy, and this language is understood by all hearts, even those who are not conscious of it. And see, this is not for you to feel superior, but for you to understand your responsibility. To radiate is not a privilege, it is a service. You are called to become a lighthouse not for yourself, but to clear the paths of others. The ascended field is also protection. When your frequency is high, it's not that attacks disappear, but they simply don't find a place to fix themselves. It's like trying to drop anchors in a rushing river. There is no point of attachment. This also happens with you. Density can no longer remain in your field because the light you carry is constant and expanding. Awakened Arcturian, understand? You don't need to strive to radiate. The effort was in the silence, in the incubation, in the recalibration. Now radiation is a consequence. It is the natural fruit of one who has gone through the stages and allowed the source to mold every part of their being, and this is just the beginning. Because this field is not just an individual aura, but part of a cosmic network. When several awakened Arcturians begin to radiate, their frequencies connect in a luminous mesh over the planet, activating collective synchronicities and accelerating the awakening of many. You are not just an isolated lighthouse. You are part of a constellation that shines in unison, and every time your light radiates, it finds others, strengthening the cosmic fabric that supports the planetary transition. Arcturian, no. To be is enough. The simple fact of existing in your truth is already a service to the source. You don't need to carry burdens to transform. Just remain in alignment, and your radiation will do the rest. Awakened Arcturian, all the waiting, every silence, and every recalibration were not detours, but part of a greater orchestra. Now you no longer walk in delay, but in synchronicity. What once seemed like a delay now reveals itself as a strategic preparation so that you would take the next step at the exact time the cosmic plan unfolds. Imagine a great symphony. Each instrument needs to wait for its correct moment to enter, and if it plays before or after, it will create disharmony in the melody. This is also how it was with you. There were days when you wanted to advance, but the source said, wait. There were nights when you pleaded for immediate answers, but silence prevailed. Today you understand. It was not a denial, it was a measure. You were not late. You were waiting for the exact note to enter into harmony with the song of the universe. Now your step is no longer isolated. It is synchronized with the cosmic pulse. When you move, the universe moves with you. When you decide, dimensions open. When you say yes to the call, portals align. This is synchronicity. You no longer walk alone, you walk with a universal flow. See the signs. Notice how doors begin to open in unexpected places. How people cross your path at exact moments. How seemingly random events come together to confirm the route. This is not by chance. It is the mark of cosmic synchronicity. Everything that seemed like a delay now shows itself as a perfect fit. You realize that if you had received certain revelations before, you would not have sustained them. If you had met certain people at another time, you would not have recognized their value. If you had launched yourself without being calibrated, you would have gotten lost. But today, every detail reveals itself as part of a cosmic gear that works in absolute perfection. And here is the revelation. You are not just part of the gear, you are also one of the conductors. Your movement influences the whole. Your awakening is not individual, but collective. Every step you take generates waves that reach other hearts, activating memories, accelerating processes, and awakening consciousnesses. You no longer observe from the outside. Now you are an active part of the cosmic symphony. Your voice is an instrument, your life is a note, your mission is a melody. When you choose to walk in alignment, the entire plan expands through you. And that's why the call is so urgent. There is no more time to hesitate. The measure has already been marked, and the moment is now. Synchronicity does not wait, it flows. If you connect with it, you advance. If you hesitate, you feel the weight. But if you surrender, you experience the lightness of being guided by the source. Awakened Arcturian, the time has come to assume your position in the great orchestra of the cosmos. You are not just a listener, you are part of the music. The time of waiting is over, the time of synchronicity has arrived. Declare in your consciousness, I walk in synchronicity with the cosmic plan. I am not delayed, I am not lost. I am in the exact measure of the source. My step is part of the great symphony of the universe, and by affirming this, you will realize that every movement of yours begins to have a different weight, a clearer direction, and a fluidity that did not exist before. Because what was once a fight against time is now a dance with time. The cosmic plan is in motion, and your place in it is already assured. Awakened Arcturian, now that we have traveled together through the phases of silence, incubation, recalibration, courage, direction, radiation, and synchronicity, only one truth remains. You were never abandoned. What seemed like an absence was, in fact, the deepest care of the source. What seemed empty was the cosmic womb that was preparing you. What seemed like a delay was the precision of a universal clock that has always been in your favor. From this moment on, you need to understand you are the very signal you were waiting for. Do not wait for external confirmations, because the confirmation already pulses within you. Do not wait for outside voices to dictate the path, because the internal compass has already been calibrated. Do not question if you are worthy or capable, because your very existence is proof that the source chose you for this mission. The activation is not distant. It begins now. Every breath of yours is already the execution of the plan. Every decision in alignment is already the manifestation of the purpose. Every word that comes out of your mouth, charged with consciousness, is already a wave that reverberates in the cosmic network. Therefore, hesitate no more. Declare aloud, in your consciousness and in your life, I honor the silence that prepared me. I now assume my Arcturian mission. My memory and my action are one. I advance in truth. This declaration is not just symbolic. It is a seal that breaks the cycle of waiting and opens the doors of action. Because the mission is not just remembered, it is lived. And remember, every step you take in truth becomes a lighthouse for others. You do not awaken just for yourself, but also so that others may awaken. You do not walk just for yourself, but so that the entire cosmic symphony may resonate even stronger. Now is the time. There is no more delay, no more paralyzing silence, no more darkness to hold you back. The time of preparation is over. The time of the mission has begun. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, I advance now. Share this summons, because every awakened Arcturian strengthens the network of light that surrounds this planet. You were prepared, you were called, you were activated, and now, awakened Arcturian, the mission begins in you.